Welcome to The Grind. I'm Lauren, and we're here at Endurance Music Group, and we're talking with three fantastic songwriters. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sweet. I'm Jake Rose.
I am Travis Hill, a.k.a. Scooter Carusoe.
I'm Matt Stell.
Today we want to take you behind the songwriting process and have you guys ask questions about what it takes to be a hit songwriter. First question. Tell us a bit about your backstory as a songwriter. How did you make it to Nashville?
I come from a little small town outside of Minneapolis called Hamel, Minnesota. Grew up on a farm there, and my dad always played music, and I always just gravitated towards, I guess, like Southern rock and stuff like that. And when I had a rock band in Minneapolis, and we had gotten a record deal on Atlantic Records, and they sent me down here, and I thought, why am I going down to Nashville to write rock songs? But then I realized there's so many great songwriters here, and then as I started writing, realizing how much better I got as a songwriter here, and so my band kind of brought me here, and then all of a sudden I discovered, wow, there's so many people from all over here. There's rock people, there's country people, there's pop people, everyone's here, and that's kind of how I got here. So
I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, and really, I guess I was in college. I was a finance major, and I was working for an accounting firm and a brokerage firm, and I was like, absolutely not. It just terrified me, and so I loved music, didn't know much about the industry. I mean, I just thought you were either Mick Jagger or you didn't work in the music business. So I just moved to Nashville, and I grew up on like old metal and stuff. I hated country music, and but it was just kind of the next make sense step, I thought. So I moved here and just started kind of figuring it out, and I really didn't have any plan other than just I just want to be around that and see how it works. And then, you know, through that I've done a variety of things. I worked at a label initially, and then I co-founded a publishing company, and then through that journey just kind of got into writing, and that has just kind of taken over the bulk of my time.
Yeah, well, I started playing music in college, and about the time that I could mash 4 chords out on a guitar, I started trying to write songs. I'd somehow always loved songs. I thought everybody loved music, and it seems like most people do, but I found out I really had a passion for it. And man, I just kind of stuck with it, and got in a van and trailer and drove everywhere, and eventually had a little success writing in kind of the Texas world, and that got me here to Nashville. And that was, you know, kind of the cliff notes of my journey here.
Mm-hmm. As well. When did you begin writing songs?
I remember my first song when I was like 12. I had just started playing guitar, and then I was super into Nirvana, and I just thought that Kurt Cobain wrote the best. I loved his songwriting, and I loved Leonard Skinner. My dad listened to Skinner, so I had this weird, like, I loved like grunge and all this stuff, but I just thought I had read like all these books about Kurt Cobain and how he had his journals and all this stuff, and I just loved his songs, and I thought, it's so cool to make up your own songs. Like, I don't want to play other people's songs. I love all their songs, but I just wanted to have my own songs, and I loved telling stories. So I remember that's when I wrote my first song, back when I was 12, I think.
Yeah, for me it's probably in college. So, you know, let's call that 1920. Yeah,
19 or 20.
Yeah,
yeah.
19. I should put an or in there. Not the year 19.
Yeah.
19 or 20.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, in college is when I started to really kind of identify with like the John Prines and Bob Seger was always kind of a touchstone for me. I loved his songs, and I just tried to emulate kind of what those guys were doing, really with no real design of what the outcome would be. I just wanted to kind of flex that muscle a little bit. I was playing a lot of cover tune shows. I was kind of the guy that would stand in the corner and play REM and Brown Eyed Girl for 3 hours at the local pizza place or whatnot. But I started just kind of sprinkling in a few originals, which, you know, I still know 1 or 2 of them, and they're pretty embarrassing. But you know, that's kind of where I got rolling. So.
Yeah, my experience was kind of similar. I started playing in college, and like I said, I started writing songs just pretty much as quick as I learned how to play guitar, because all the people that I was into at the time kind of were sort of making their own music, and that was my first experience. I guess that would have put me around the same time period, and I learned pretty early on that, because it's funny that you said about those cover shows, because I would play anywhere that would let me. But I always played original music interspersed with like obscure covers. I don't know why anyone ever hired me. Because I would play like 3 songs people would know, 10 of my own songs, and then 20 songs of just covers that like
Deep cuts.
Yeah, deep cut, like just things that spoke to me. And that's not always the way to way to do it. But that was kind of what got the ball rolling. But yeah, so I would have probably been in that same around 20 that I got.
I may have started at 12, but they weren't very good for a while.
Yeah.
I remember writing my first one down, and I think it was a gel pen piece of paper. Like it was that. That's all that when that was. But they weren't very good for a while. But I did start young.
Tell us about your first publishing deal. Did getting a publishing deal take your songwriting career to the next level? If so, how?
Yeah, my first publishing deal, it was interesting because I had a record deal first, and they had offered me a publishing deal like tied in with my record deal, but I decided not to do it because I was like betting on myself. I'm going to get a big hit on the radio, and then I'll get a huge advance or whatever. And then like we had like a mild hit, and then I was like, oh, it's not quite what I want. And even having a record deal, I wasn't always able to make a living doing music. Honestly, it's crazy to hear that, but I was like opening up for huge acts in arenas, but I would come home and I'd be like painting houses or working on the farm with my dad because we would hardly make any money. So I didn't even feel like with a record deal on a major label that I was making a living doing music, which was crazy. But it wasn't until I guess like 5 years ago when my band was kind of like, we're taking a hiatus, and Kevin Kadish, who I had worked with my band a lot with, and he had written all about that bass and all these big hits. He had said, man, like I really want to sign you to a publishing deal. I'm doing a new deal with, actually it's Endurance here. And it wasn't called Endurance at the time, but same company. But Kevin kind of gave me a shot. And once, he just said, once you can spend all of your time just doing music, it'll just change everything. And I always tell young writers and stuff, like if you can make a living doing music and just wake up and all you do is think about working on music, you just have such a bigger advantage to get better. Versus I would be working in the cracks, like working a job, come home, try to write with some buddies at 5 o'clock, but your mind's burnt out and you don't have the same advantage. And so even if it's not a huge publishing deal, it's just gets you in the door, gets you stopping working your day job. That was the biggest change in my career for sure. And in 5 years, it's just been amazing to see having that opportunity, what I was able to do.
Yeah, my situation is kind of unique. I was actually the publisher before I was the writer.
That is unique.
I didn't really have a traditional sense of a publishing deal, and that's the reason I have a pen name too, because I was starting to get songs recorded, and I really didn't want anyone to know it was me, because I also had this roster I was responsible for, so I put Scooter Carusoe on there. So, to me, it's always been, I enjoyed it. I loved that song, so I believed in it, and I would just work on it. It wasn't, essentially like I had this person who was helping me. That responsibility kind of was my own, and but there is an advantage to being, in the game on a daily basis, which I had already been. So, that to kind of speak to what you spoke of a little bit. So, but it wasn't really like that step got me a little bit closer. I just kind of like, to me, it was just a natural, gradual progression into more and more writing and less day-to-day publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely a game changer. I had written some songs. I'd been making my own music and touring on that. And then I'd written some songs in the Texas world that had done pretty good. And so that kind of emboldened me to move to Nashville. So when I did, I moved to Nashville getting a publishing deal in mind. And so I was here for a couple years, and I had, an offer that didn't pan out, thank God. And then I finally kind of when I was sort of looking at other options, like, well, I guess maybe I don't get to write songs for a living. You know, maybe I'm gonna go do something else and just play music as a hobby. I got the opportunity to sign that publishing deal, which was that deal is now, you know, here at Endurance. It's kind of a similar thing you were talking about, Jake. But it does free you up to focus on music all the time. It also puts you around creative and like-minded people a lot more. And I know, for, you know, I learn stuff just about every time that I write, but especially, you know, early on, man, it was just like going to songwriting college, like just being around these just unbelievably talented people in this town, and you know, having a publishing deal facilitated that in a lot of ways. So,
Who were your early music business mentors?
Early business mentors, I would say there's a guy, Justin Levinson. He worked at CSAC, and he was kind of signing, like, you know, you get signed up as a new writer to a PRO or whatever. And I was in Minneapolis, and we had a song that was like on MTV, just my local band, but like they were gonna collect some royalties for us. And I met Justin, and he was the one that was really like, he sent my stuff to the people at Atlantic, and all these record labels started coming after us because he kept saying, dude, you gotta check this band out. And he said, you should come down to Nashville, man, and really try co-writing, because I just only wrote by myself. And I'm like, what do you mean? And kind of like what you said, when, you know, is like, I didn't know you could write songs for other artists. You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah, down here, it's like songwriting capital of the world, you know? And you should come down here. I'll book you. You can just sleep on my couch, and I'll book you with some co-writes. And so I did. And the first co-write I had, I remember, said, here, I brought this verse chorus in. And then they said, well, that's really cool, but maybe we can write a chorus to that. Maybe that's your pre-chorus. Like, we could write a bigger thing over that, and maybe we could take this kind of up. And it blew my mind, because I was all of a sudden working with these great songwriters who had better ideas than I had, and all of a sudden my song went from, you know, a C to a B+, because they came in and helped me. And anyway, but Justin was very instrumental in like just introducing me to other people and waving my flag, and it turned into like just little things, but I got a record deal out of it, and we're still good buddies today. He works at Big Machine now, but he was one of my first mentors. And then obviously Kevin Kadish, who signed me to this publishing deal and stuff, we worked with my band together, and he had so much success, and so it was just kind of like I was able to like see like, where were you at on this step, or what would you do here, and they're offering me this kind of deal, should I do it? And he's so well versed in it, so I was able to really ask him so much, and he was, you know, a big help.
For me, that'd probably be Frank Liddell. Frank and I met in the A&R department of Decca Records way back, and we started Carnival Music together. And, you know, Frank's still to this day, kind of his litmus test is, do you like it or you not?
Yeah.
I mean, Nashville is so, like, everybody's got their strategic formula, and if we do this and that, and we turn this knob 3 ways, and if you drive your car at 42 miles an hour down Music Road, we'll get a hold on a so-and-so record.
Yeah.
And we just threw all that out the window. I mean, it was just like, hey, do you like it or you don't? And that just kind of has always, you know, left its mark on me, and still what I try to do. But for sure, Frank was a big impact on my career.
yeah, for me, if I had to single out one person, it'd be my manager and kind of former publisher and co-writer and life coach, Ash Bowers. He's the first person that gave me a shot. I had a writer friend of mine, Autumn McIntyre, kind of vouched for me and to Ash. He said he was looking for, you know, artist, writer kind of thing. And she said, oh, you should check out this guy. And she sent him my stuff. And he was the first person that gave me a chance and said, I believe in what you're doing. And I think we could succeed together doing it. Him and his business partner, Steve Williams. And, you know, there's a lot, you know, there's obviously, you know, more people that are involved that I, you know, couldn't do it without. But Ash and Steve Williams are the ones that empowered me to write.
What essentials do you wish you knew early on in your career about the songwriting craft or music business that you know now?
I mean, there's There's a ton of stuff, I guess. I mean, like Matt said, I guess you learn stuff every day. You know what I mean? I think one thing that I learned along the way is there's a lot of empowerment to just doing it yourself, or like I learned to write songs by myself because I didn't have anyone to write songs with. I learned to play guitar by myself because I didn't have a guitar teacher, and then it was like, as I started writing songs, it was like, man, I'm waiting for people to demo my songs. I really want to hear this demoed. I wonder what it would sound like recorded. And I did it out of necessity. I started recording myself, and 10, 12 years of that, now I'm a producer now, I guess you say. But that I wasn't setting out to do that, but I think there's a lot of power in just having a DIY mindset, because there's this whole thing of like, you're going to sign to a label and they're going to do everything for you, or you're going to... you're just kind of like waiting for a big break, because I think that's like a myth that everyone thinks, and it's like, it's just hard work, and it's like you can do so much, especially today. You get a laptop and you get Logic and you can be a producer. You know what I mean? You can do so much. And I think when I was younger, I had that philosophy of like, maybe there's going to be some big break, or I'm waiting for someone else to help me do this. And it's like, just do it yourself. You know what I mean? And so I guess that's a lesson I think I've learned, and I would recommend, I guess.
Yeah, for me, and I tell anyone who is aspiring to get into the music world, that the most important day in your career is when you can make up your mind for yourself. And what I mean by that is, just because that guy at that office says your song is good or bad doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. And if you can't say, well, I appreciate that opinion, but I'm moving forward. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean if he's the head of a label or the guy in the mailroom. None of that matters. I've had way more success with things that weren't supposed to happen than things that were supposed to happen. You just, hey, I love it. I believe in it. I don't care what Charlie JoJo in the top floor at the corner office says, man, because he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, 2 and 2 is not 4 in the music business. Mm-hmm. It's all opinion based. And to me, that's it. When you are certain in your belief of its quality, stick with it.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna file that one away. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess for me, when I moved to town, I thought I was gonna write songs for like big artists and make indie kind of records for myself and tour around and just kind of follow my muse or whatever. And it didn't happen that way. Like, I signed a publishing deal, we put out some music, and I had a song change my life, right? So that kind of cliche thing is like, 3 minutes to change your life. It's very true. I would say that, just from the progression of, and I still think about this every day, especially as being an artist as well, is that figuring out who it is, like figuring out that voice or who it is that I am, what I'm trying to say, and have that kind of unique take on something is a lot of the time when I'm writing for myself is what I'm focused on. And I think that when you first start writing, the first thing you do is emulate people you think are great. And I don't know any other way to learn, that's got to be the way that you do it. Then at a certain point, kind of the artistry part kind of comes in when you can take those things and make something new out of them where they're, it's different than the constituent parts kind of. So I would say kind of that sort of searching for a unique voice, or like having that in mind creatively is something that I consciously do every day, but I didn't understand really that is the, kind of the artist part of it, in my opinion, is that.
For those of you who also record your own songs, how do you balance the artist versus songwriter dynamic? Do you write differently for yourself versus other artists?
Yeah, it depends, on the situation. If there's another artist in the room, then I'm definitely thinking, okay, what do you want to write? I guess, you know what I mean? Or let's make sure there's some of you in the song, or what, I might listen to their music beforehand and try to get a little bit of a understanding. And you never want to put things too much in a box, but you might want to have some guardrails of like, okay, let's not pitch a reggae idea to Matt Stell. You know what I mean? Like, he's probably not going to go for that. So just maybe having a little bit of an idea. It's hard for me because I've had songs that like I've loved and thought maybe I should record this for myself that maybe another artist cuts. But as I've gotten older, I've started to easily realize this is for me, like it's a story about me, or I wrote it in a perspective that I think I sound authentic and genuine singing it. When I first started on Music Row and writing country stuff, like Matt said, you kind of emulate stuff, or like, there's a hot songwriter and everyone's kind of trying to do what they're doing. And then I started realizing, well, there's already Michael Hardy. Michael Hardy's kicking ass being Michael Hardy, but like, I should just be me. I got to be Jake Rose. And I mean, I got to write from my perspective. And so yeah, it's interesting, I guess. To answer that question, yeah, I mean, when I'm writing for myself, sometimes I write my own songs by myself, so that's kind of easy to do that. But if there's an artist in the room and they have an intention to put a song out, then I'm definitely trying to write for them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't put out records like these guys do, so that is not necessarily, that situation doesn't really happen to me. I have written songs with artists that I got recorded by other artists, right. and I always used to wonder, like, if that was like if that was going to kind of stain the song a little bit, like, well, if it wasn't good for him, why should I cut it? But it happens all the time. But for me, I'm just trying to write to the room. If I'm writing with an artist, I kind of want to be myself in that person's sphere a little bit. Yep. But I don't make records, so I don't really have to worry about which ones are for me. All matter for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, for me, nowadays, 95 times out of 100, we're in a room and we're kind of writing for me or my project or something like that. Or at least that's kind of the goal, because, that's, to be a songwriter in town, it's getting cuts and then those being singles is the way that that's like lucrative for people. And so it's like, I totally get that. I really try to just write whatever the coolest idea is, and then sort out later kind of who it's for or where it goes or something like that. Because to me, it just kind of, that process works for me, because it seems like the better idea is always like that's the rabbit I want to chase. And I know that if I can tell it's something that I'm really interested in, then I'll it's very easy to like, oh yeah, I want to do this and kind of with myself in mind. And then sometimes it's like, even if I do that, it comes out and it's like, oh, this might fit better with a different artist. So I just kind of let the just in terms of being an artist or whatever, like I let the song kind of figure out where it goes, and I just try to write the coolest thing. Now sometimes you're making a project and you need something for the record, But I've found that I don't really, a lot of times, as I sit here, I don't know that I've many times gone, well, I'm really needing an up tempo for the record. Let's do that. That's not fertile ground for me creatively. That is, it works for other people, but for me, it's just like, let's, we can write a 3/4 song about, whatever, something sad. I don't want to say anything tacky, but like that's fine. To me, it's just whatever the idea is, chase that down and let the chips fall where they may.
Could you pick one of your most commercially successful songs and tell us what you remember about writing it and how it ultimately made its way to the artist?
That's an interesting question. I'm trying to think. I think I don't even know. It was like my first cut. It was not that it was like a big chart seller, I guess, but it was a big artist. Is Meatloaf. It was the first song that Kevin Kadish and I wrote together, and I got a call. And I mean, I know my parents listened to Meatloaf, but I didn't really realize who he was. I mean, I knew some of the songs, but like heard him at weddings or whatever. But yeah, it was like it was the first cut I ever got. We wrote the song one week, and then Kevin was with Meatloaf next week and pitched it to him. And the next thing I know, it was like, "Hey, dude, Meatloaf's gonna call you." And like I got a call, and I was like, "What?" and it was just kind of a trip for me. And Kevin had told me in the room, Meatloaf said it had the F-bomb in the chorus, in the song, because I was a punk rock kid. I didn't care if I got on the radio or not. I just wanted to write songs that I thought were awesome and tough and rock and roll. And so I thought, well, and so Kevin played me. He said, "Play me something you would never record. You play me something you think I would never record." Meatloaf said that to Kevin. He said, "Well, here's this song I just wrote with this kid from Minnesota, and it says, F-bomb in the chorus." And he said, "I love that song. I want to cut it. Can you get his number?" And next thing I know, I was with Meatloaf, and I didn't realize how big he was globally and everything. But it's been a song that, like, just because he sells so many records and people, and he's so big and iconic, that now I know that. But that was like a strange one for me, and I ended up singing on the record with him, and then Jack Black, the actor, and my manager had called me and said, "Hey, it's gonna be you and Jack White and Meatloaf on the song." And I'm like, "Oh my God, Jack White, we're not gonna win a Grammy or something, dude. This is awesome." And then it was like, "Oh, I meant Jack Black," and I'm like, all right, cool, that's cool. I was like, that's still cool. So that was an interesting song, how it got to where it got to, and it's been a cool thing to have in my repertoire.
Yeah, for starters, I'm a huge Meatloaf fan.
Yeah.
I've listened to Bat Out of Hell 5,000 times.
Yep.
I love that record.
Yep.
Trying to think, typically now you just text somebody a song or email a song or you write with the artist. As far as like unique journeys, I had a song one time that I wrote this letter. So my old business partner was Frank Liddell that I mentioned earlier. I wrote a letter to Chesney and signed it from Frank. Didn't tell Frank. Sent him a song.
That's great.
And Kenny called Frank. He's like, "Man, I love this song. I'm cutting this song." Frank had no clue what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So that was
awesome.
pretty funny.
That's great.
That's awesome. I'm gonna do that with your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the famous story, I mean, I guess it's true, was Christopherson. Y'all have heard this story.
I think so. Yeah,
Where he flew the helicopter.
Oh,
Landed a helicopter in Johnny Cash's yard and pitched him, gave him a cassette of Sunday Morning Coming Down.
Yeah. That's
Don't know if
awesome.
that's true or not, but that's at
pretty
least
epic.
urban myth
That's
or,
pretty
or
epic.
hillbilly myth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Rural myth.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Remind me of the question so that I know we're talking about artists that, like, can you just repeat the question?
Could you pick your most commercially successful song and tell us what you remember about writing it and how it ultimately made its way to the artist?
Oh, well, I mean, being my most commercially successful song was my first single, "Pray for You," and I made it to the artist because I was there.
I was the artist.
And I am artist.
Yeah.
And so I got in a room with Ash Bowers that I mentioned before, and Allison Belt's another friend of mine, and we sat in a room, and again letting the best idea, or letting an idea kind of do its thing. She had just met who's now her husband, like the couple days before, and so she was in this like real positive headspace about all that. And Ash is a happily married guy, and I'm not those things. But I'd had experiences with relationships and things like that, so we all kind of took Allison had this idea. I prayed for this guy. I didn't know it, but I was praying for this guy, and had it's more than I could fathom. I didn't know you from Adam, but I prayed for you. We just made that the back of the chorus. We sat down and wrote it. We wrote the song kind of one direction and had to call it quits that day. Came back, which is a little atypical. Usually now, we knock a song out in a day typically. And the length of time to write the song is not a gauge on how good or bad it is. Sometimes they take a long time, sometimes they don't. But this particular time, we got back together, started writing it again with fresh eyes, and came up with what turned out to be "Prayed for You," which it changed my life all the way around, and it's really about Allison Belt's husband.
There you go.
Or at least that was the germ of the idea, and then it became a story about a guy that's a lot like me. But it's just to sum that up, the collaboration.
Hey guys, don't mean to interrupt your conversation, but we have some viewer questions before we go to an ad break. TCB Everyday wants to know, how did you find your genre?
That's an interesting question for me because I think I walk between a lot of them sometimes, and that's been the struggle of my career. Not struggle, maybe it's, now I'm looking at it as like, maybe this is the thing that makes me me, is that I started in rock, like hard rock, playing with, you know, Rob Zombie and Avenged Sevenfold and Hollywood Undead and Papa Roach and all these bands. I loved rock, but I always loved telling stories, and I grew up on Southern rock, Leonard Skinner, Charlie Daniels, and all this stuff. So I always had that in my blood too, and so I always loved writing country songs, and I would turn in songs to my record label, and they'd say, "Man, this kind of sounds country." Like, I'm like, "Well, I don't think it does, but whatever." And when I first started writing country songs, I think I tried to be as country as I possibly could be to kind of hide the fact that I was a rock guy, I guess. And there's like this whole, like, you either do one or the other, and I grew up with burnt CDs that had Kenny Chesney on them and, you know, Puddle of Mud. I don't know, and this is my generation, and Eminem on there. You know, so nowadays, I think there's so many more people that can see beyond, you're not just one thing anymore, because kids these days have TikTok and are listening to 10 different genres at once. And so I think that's a new thing, is people that, like, you look at, like, I'm bringing him up again, but like Hardy, you can totally hear he's definitely has a lot of rock influence in him. And you don't have to shy away from that as much anymore. But I felt like, you know, 12 years ago when I first, you know, got my record deal and stuff, there was way more boxes that they put you in. Even then, they were like, "You're active rock." And I'm like, what is active rock? I just like music. I just like, you know. And so I'm kind of a hybrid, I think. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I bet that question is geared more for these guys who are artists. I mean, for me, you know, I enjoy the times I'm writing with people who are in different formats. Just because it's something a little different. That's it. I am genreless, man. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, obviously, proximity-wise and my track record-wise is Nashville, but I enjoy giving a shot at anything.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of, you know, born in it. You know, there was probably country music playing in the delivery room, you know, while the doctor was, you know, whatever. It's like the same thing, you getting your oil changed, and it's like, you know, country radio's on. I just kind of, it was just in the water where I'm from, and I'm just like everybody, you know, else too. I grew up on all different kinds of music, and you know, I played basketball for, you know, most of my life. So, you know, that has its own, you know, kind of culture, kind of urban culture. So, you know, it was everything from, you know, any kind of rap music that you wanted to talk about to you know, obviously country music, to all the alternative stuff from the 90s that you know, I love, from Oasis to Alanis Morissette to, you know, whatever, Hootie and the Blowfish, and then, you know, now, but the common thread is like country music was always the default setting. Like, you know, it would be like if I recited, you know, Romeo and Juliet, it would sound like, you know, Romeo was from Salgahatchee, Arkansas. You know, it's just like the same. It just passes through that prism.
Yep.
And then we have one last question, and then we'll take a quick ad break. Viga Music wants to know your favorite reference song. So I'm guessing just either your favorite song that you like. Yeah, that's based off of that. Let's kind of keep going from that.
Interesting. I don't know if I have a song. I think I would say an artist that I think that I always continue to go back to is Tom Petty, just because I think he was such an amazing songwriter and artist, and songwriting was so important to him. And I just look at his songs like he always says so little and so little words, but says so much. His songs are so broad, like Won't Back Down. It's like that could be anything, but everyone feels it differently. But that's just for me. When I'm thinking about songwriting, I'm thinking about, man, how can we make this as simple as possible but make it say a ton? You know what I mean? So that's one I go to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of those. The most Boys of Summer, Don Henley's one for me. I mean, I wrote a song called Anything But Mine, which really was I just wanted to emulate that feeling. But I do that all the time. I think it's easier to describe what you're trying to chase by playing someone something than trying to actually sit there and articulate it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like if I'm in a session and I'm trying to explain something to a session player, I have no chance. But if I pick up and play it. And it's like, kind of in the spirit of this. So
Yeah.
I think it's important. I do that all the time. Bob Seger's a big one for me. I mean, Tom Petty, whatever. That needle moves around, but I think it's a good exercise. And, I tell a lot of new people too, it's like, man, if you come to town and you're playing this game, there's a lot of reasons things succeed in this town, and one of them is quality. And it's like, this is the major leagues of songwriting, and it's like, man, it's good to try to stack your tune up. Is it as good as, Willie Nelson? Is it as good as, pick the name, put it in there, because that's really the level you're competing at. So it's a good exercise.
That's funny you say that about Boys of Summer, because I probably, it's very context specific, right? Like, so if you're, depending on what song you're writing, like you said, I'm not proficient enough technically to go do it, but I know I at least have a direction. That's another little sidebar. Like, there is a big difference in knowing what you like versus knowing what you don't like. And knowing what you don't like is the first thing that happens. Like, that's why people are like, oh, I hate country music, or oh, I hate this. It's so much easier to do that. But then when you have to start, like, destruction is easier than construction. But then when you have to start trying to figure out things that you do like, it's much more difficult. And I find myself, though, with that Don Henley song about how it kind of hides the one until it gets to the chorus, and how it moves, like it has that tempo to it, and it has that, that vibe of, like, summer youth kind of nostalgia kind of thing. I find myself referencing that. That's probably one of the most referenced tunes as well.
So before we go, a side note on that song, I just read Tom Petty's book, and he said that Mike Campbell had the entire track, gave it to Tom Petty to write to it, and Tom was like, I can't come up with something. It was the entire track, Boys of Summer. I can't.
Wow.
You know what, man? I can't. He's like, man, I really want to give this to Don Henley. Do you care? He goes, man, I can't write anything over it. That's fine, dude. He goes, the only thing I'll say is maybe the original track never went to the one in the chorus. It stayed minor. And he said, the only thing I'll say is maybe you should go major in the chorus. And then there you go. And so Tom Petty had said, and then they asked him in the interview, so did he go to the major chord? He's like, he did. It's like the most iconic change, you know what I mean? What an awesome song.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back to watch these guys give us an acoustic performance.
Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Jake Rose. I'm going to play you guys a new song. It's not released yet, but I'm planning on putting this song out in the new year. And I wrote this song with the guys named Clint Lagerberg and Marcus Hummin. And I had recently just gotten engaged when we wrote this song, and Clint had texted me, or had commented on my Instagram post of my engagement, and he said, well, man, that's one way to get a yes in a no town. And, being a songwriter in Nashville, you get 99.9% no as the answer of, are they going to cut your song? No. Do you like this? No. It's all no's. And so, anyways, that's where the song was born, and I'm excited for it to come out. It's called No Town. Taxi downtown, Broadway bound, just a stranger with a six string and a party crowd. Happy drunks, tourists, bachelorettes and beer. I'm just another face that ain't from here. Open mics and cover songs, passing the tip jar around. Just working on a yes and no town. Hey, baby, I won't let you down. Gonna give you the life we've been dreaming about. Someday, baby, some way, somehow, all I need is a yes and a no town. It ain't easy, it ain't overnight. It's a wonder how anyone gets their name in lights. I ain't complaining, so close course I can taste it. I'm damn near broke with the dues I'm paying. I have my days, I have my doubts, but I keep praying for a yes and a no. Town, hey baby, I won't let you down. Gonna give you the life we've been dreaming about. Someday, baby, some way, somehow, all I need is a yes and a no. Town, you've been the one thing that keeps me from crazy. Through all of the heartbreaks and nights, yets and maybes. All this time, my big break's been patiently waiting. No more waiting. So hey baby, I won't let you down. Let me give you the life we've been dreaming about. And right now, baby, with my knee on the ground, how about a yes and a no? Town, how about a yes and a no? Town. Thank you guys so much. My name's Jake Rose. Appreciate you guys having me. Sweet.
Slide down here. Yeah, I warmed that up. So this is the song I was talking about. I was trying to pretend like I was Don Henley, Boys of Summer. Walking along beneath the lights of that Miracle Mile, me and Mary making our way into the night. You can hear the cries from the pinball bells, star bells, and the skee ball slide. Watch the summer sun fall out of sight. In the midst, oh shit, I can't even remember the words. There's a warm wind blowing in from off of the ocean, making its way past the hotel walls to feel the streets. Yeah, Mary's holding both of her shoes in her hand. Said she likes to feel the sand beneath her feet. And in the morning I'm leaving, making my way back to Cleveland. So tonight I hope I will do just fine. Yeah, and I don't see how you could ever be anything but mine. There's a local band playing at the Seaside Pavilion. I got just enough cash to get us in. Yeah, and as we're dancing, Mary's wrapping her arms around me. I can feel the sting of summer on my skin. In the midst of the music, hell, I told her I loved her, and we both laughed, 'cause we know it isn't true. Oh, but Mary, there's a summer drawn to an end tonight, and there's so much that I long to do. In the morning I'm leaving, making my way back to Cleveland. So tonight I hope that I will do just fine. Yeah, and I don't see you could ever be anything but mine. In the morning I'm leaving, making my way back to Cleveland. So tonight I hope I will do just fine. And I don't see how you could ever be anything but mine. Mary, I don't see how you could ever be anything but mine. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to The Grind. Thanks for that awesome performance, guys. We've just got a few more questions here, and if any viewers have any questions, feel free to send those in too. Let's see. What is a song that you wish you had written?
There's a lot of those, I guess. I would say one that I go back to a lot. I love the song "Live Like You Were Dying." Craig Wiseman and Tim Nichols wrote that, and I mean, like you said, Scooter. I mean, I wasn't like huge in country when I was younger, but when I heard that song, I thought, man, I mean, it just hits so. It's commercially, but it's also just emotionally it hits you, and that's one I wish I wrote. I love that song.
Yeah, let's see. There are a bunch of those. The ones that jump out quickly are "The House That Built Me." Let's bounce around a little bit. Judas Priest, "The Hellion Electric Eye."
Yeah, I should have got it in. Yeah.
Stagger Lee by Lloyd Price. I don't know if he was the writer or the artist. I mean, they're just kind of all over the map, man. There's no rhyme or reason for me. Sometimes I'll just hear it and I love it, and sometimes I'm supposed to like it and I don't. But you know, those come out as some of my favorites.
Yeah, there's probably two in the country space. Number one is "Great Day to Be Alive,"
Okay,
Daryl
yeah.
Scott. That's one of my favorite songs. One of my favorite like he has his own artist version of it. Obviously, Travis Tritt made it popular, but I find that because things that hurt worse than things that feel good, right? So I know for me, songwriting, I've always tended to go to like a negative place. Not negative, but like sing about loss or things like that. Those are the first things I write about because those feelings and emotions are so much more acute. So anytime that I hear a positive song that is an unbelievably well-written song that's not in any way like campy or trying hard to be happy, to me, that's like the pinnacle of the mountain. And In Color, Jamie Johnson, I'm not sure that all the writers on that, but man, to me, that's one of those quintessential country songs that's just, talk about turning a phrase. Wow.
Yep.
Where do you draw inspiration from for your writing material?
I mean, kind of anywhere. It's just you just kind of try to keep a keen ear out, I guess, to hear a phrase or something, or someone's going through something, or maybe it's a melodic thing that you just might hear in your head, or a musical thing. Maybe it's a guitar lick or something. But I just kind of keep my ear to the ground if I hear something I feel like that's a good story for a song. That's an impetus of some kind of idea, I guess. It could be from anywhere, honestly. Conversation, radio, anything.
Yeah, I guess anybody who's doing this for a living, at least kind of in this town professionally, has got a phone full of hooks. So you're always kind of got your antenna out for a song title. And then there's life experience, and then I mean, nothing is pushes you as hard as paying the bills too. So when it's your job, you've got to have songs that become meaningful to support your family. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when it's your job, it's different than when it's your hobby.
Yeah, I'm just kind of echo what y'all said. I keep my antenna up all the time, whether it's inspiration from other kinds of media, like movies, books, or things like that, conversations in passing, situations of my own life. But as you know, as you said, Scooter, like you can exhaust that well pretty quickly
Yep.
when you write 9 times a week.
Yep.
So you have to be able to pull it from other places and other things. But you get kind of good at having your antenna up and knowing what might be an idea, what might be a cool line, what might be something cool to toss out in a room with other great writers, and what you might want to keep for yourself to just to
Yep.
write, you know, like you said, Jake.
Yep.
How and where do your musical influences show up in your songwriting?
I would say the country where I grew up on a farm, and so like Matt said, every tractor I ever rode in they were playing country radio my whole life, and then I thought I wanted to get as far away from that as possible because I wanted to get off this farm and go to the city. So then I really dove into rock, and I was just all rock and roll, no country, and then I listened to tons of hip hop. I love it. Minneapolis had this weird hip hop scene, and I love that too. And I just love the rhyming and the phrasing and everything. So I think I overphrase a lot of stuff. Not overphrase, I guess, maybe, but a lot of phrasing might come from like a hip hop world. Melodically, though, I think I'm just kind of all over the place. I've never been afraid of the big hit songs, commercial songs that you've heard a million times. I like those melodies, those ones that stick with you and stuff. So maybe a little of that, and then there's always going to be a little piece of me that's got some rock and roll in there, I think, somewhere. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think of myself as definitely Southern or Southeast. As you know, I'm not from Texas. I mean, Texas has its own breed of its own sound, which I love. But I'd just be a carpetbagger, kind of faking it if I was doing that. I mean, I for better or worse, I think I sound kind of like a guy from East Tennessee.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, I mean, that's just kind of. I think it's the girl you dated in high school. It's the beer you drank at the so and so. I mean, it's like all those ingredients. Even if the lines don't say that, I think that they're in there, man. It's just kind of like the aggregate of life experience just coming out. You know, I don't think you ever like any music as much as the music you grew up on. You know, it just doesn't matter. So it's like, to me, that is the touchstone. It's all the stuff I grew up on, but which was a lot of rock, but if at least the pictures of that period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of similar. I would echo that. You know, I feel like that the kind of thing that keeps country music or makes country music country is mainly the lyric and how the lyric works. And so anything from those pop melodies to some kind of hip hop phrasing to, different and new sounds, I'm not scared of those. And I'm also not scared of the things I grew up on, the Waylon and Willies and Merles and then all that other stuff we talked about. So, they probably appear, that's probably a question easier asked about you than to you, because sometimes when you're inside of it, it's hard to be like, well, I took this from here and this from here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it would go.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, Matt, Scooter, and Jake, for sharing your stories. And follow American Songwriter for more interviews like this. And thank you to Endurance Music Group for hosting. And have a great day.